Let's continue now discussing the deliberations there at the first 7th Administration's Cabinet Lekgotla. With that, we have a political analyst, Dr Levy Ndou. Doctor, it's always great having you with us. So day one of the Cabinet Lekgotla, what would you expect to have been some of the core deliberations taking shape there amongst the newly formed cabinet members?
Alicia, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. I expected exactly what happened, that the president has to provide direction on what the 7th administration has to do and what it has to focus on. And that is why when the president has to open the Lekgotla, he has to identify priority areas that government has to focus on. And that is good in the sense that as the leader of government, he must be able to channel his cabinet onto specific areas that they need to look at. But also at the same time, you also expect the ministers themselves to deliberate on areas where they feel that they can be able to make a difference. And of course, at the end of the day, you must therefore be able to come with a coherent approach that cabinet has to agree on.
And then we have been discussing, Doctor, in great length as well as detail, the many critical as well as pressing challenges that the country is currently grappling with. And I think we've covered in great detail how might the new appointees be fit or not fit for their current positions. And now we're here. So what do you think are some of the outstanding concerns that still need to be addressed as this administration begins its work?
This is the right opportunity for the different political party leaders to express their views on issues that they consider to be challenges facing South Africans. All these political parties during the campaigns were able to outline their plans. And this Cabinet Lekgotla gives them an opportunity to raise those issues from a government point of view and as people that are given the responsibilities to provide solutions to these challenges. The advantage that we have in South Africa is that there is a general consensus in terms of identifying challenges facing South Africans. And this is the right time, in my view, that cabinet has to talk with one voice coming from different political parties on how are they going to build a strong economy. They have to talk to how are they going to ensure that the jobs that they all spoke about during their campaigns, how are they going to be created. They have to talk about how do they respond to the energy crisis in South Africa, and how therefore do they ensure that education becomes better and relevant in bettering the lives of the students and indeed of the general population. I don't expect the meeting of cabinet to have unnecessary arguments, because these leaders that are sitting at the Lekgotla know our challenges. The only thing that they must do is to develop a clear program of action on how then do they deal with the challenges that we face in the country.
And Doctor, I mean, at this stage, we are still not seeing the agreements or those statements of intent as to understand how exactly some of these deals or agreements were actually formed. Then how do we judge their work as well as outputs based on speculative analysis? Do we not deserve as the public to be privy to some of the contents of what really constitutes this team so we can hold them accountable?
We still have a long way to go, Alicia, when it comes to issues that relates to the runnings of the government of national unity. But equally, South Africa has got its own challenges that must be addressed. My view is that these different political parties still have to sit down to iron out a number of challenges that might arise in the government of national unity. Issues that relates to dealing with conflict within the GNU, issues that relates to making agreements, even though we're aware that there is a principle that has been adopted already which talks to sufficient consensus. But at the same time, there are issues that will relate to communication by those that are active members of the GNU, because I have observed that to a certain extent, there appears to be a challenge when it comes to how do these people that are participants in the GNU have to talk to the public, or how they actually communicate to the public. But what is very, very central is that as they move out of the Lekgotla, we are going to have a government program of action which must be embraced by all different political parties, but also at the same time, implementation becomes central. So the performance of these ministers, the performance of government is going to be gauged based on how the programs that are going to be developed are implemented by the different departments.
And I mean, just on your points, Doctor, there on communication as well as consensus, how would you then suggest that they actually formally address this issue so that we really do get a GNU that speaks in one voice, even when they communicate some of these statements, that it doesn't create confusion because a member of a certain party will go under the umbrella of the specified party to communicate decisions that are based under or from the decisions of the GNU?
One has to acknowledge that there has been excitement and anxiety, especially amongst those who never thought that they'll be very close to the positions of power. And now that they are there as ministers, one would pardon them for rushing to comment on their responsibilities and even outlining some of the things that they think or what they thought they should be doing in government. My view is that the protocol should always be observed, because you have got people who have to speak on matters of government, and at the same time, ministers should follow proper channels and protocols on communication. But that does not necessarily mean that ministers should be prevented from accountability and communicating what is happening in the department. But what becomes central in my view is that because we've got a government of national unity, you need to have a proper coordinated strategy in terms of how information is communicated to the general public. And what is very important also is that you do not have a minister of the DA, ANC, or the PAC. You have got a minister of government who must ensure that services are rendered to the people, and this person has to work in the best interest of the entire nation.